I'm so excited you're here, Teresa Van-Zeller.
Me too, girlfriend. It's been forever, and I love you to bits.
See you face to face on Zoom is really something.
I know, one-on-one. It's been a while, but we have a lot of hours clocked together.
I know, definitely. We really do. So, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today because I think, let's face it, we're both truth tellers, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. And how we feel about those truths are so very complex, right? So we're going to really talk today about birthing. You helped me birth my babies.
I did, and you birthed your babies like none other. Supposed to be as natural as could be.
Yeah, exactly. So, how long have you been a birthing coach?
Oh my Lordy. Probably I think around 98, 99, around there. So yeah, probably about, oh my gosh, about 23 years, 24 years. Wow.
Yeah. So, I came to you. Spency is going to be 20 in December.
Do not lie to me.
I can't believe it. He's 19 now. Right? Oh my God, my oldest, Spencer Beck. Right. So I want to talk about all things birth today, and particularly the mindset behind it. And you wrote this book, like 15 years ago now?
At least, yeah.
Okay. And it's called Birthing as Nature Intended, Banny. And this was before I met, this was after I met you. So Spency was, I think, a couple years old when you wrote the book, I remember.
Yeah. And it was at the request, by the way, of the hypnobirthing, excuse me while I get comfortable. It was of the hypnobirthing grand poobah, who just kept saying, I wish somebody would just write a book on the normalcy of birth. And I thought, I could do that.
I can do that. First of all, I want to ask you though, it's like, I think the way I even found you, my dearest friend, best friend, Kelly, she invited me to her birth of her second.
Kelly.
Kelly. And she invited me to her birth, and she's like, I took this class and it's really great with Teresa. And I'm like, okay. And her story is her story, so I won't tell it here. But the bottom line is that was my entrance into you. And then it was like, I don't know, shortly thereafter, I was pregnant with Spency. And then I was like, well, let me try this. She really encouraged me. And then that's when Jim and I signed up for your classes, the hypnobirthing. So, talk about the myths a little bit of I'm going to just, I underlined this and it made everything make sense. Let me read it. You write, right here in your intro, you write, to never underestimate the power of intentions of a woman in labor.
Oh God, yes.
Right?
All my heart.
Yeah. And you wrote also about birthing never intended to be, nature never intended birthing to be painful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want you to talk a little bit about that, because I think that that's one of the biggest myths, is that birthing needs to be
painful.
Yeah.
So let's take it from the top.
Yeah. Let's do it.
When I first got into hypnosis, it was more for personal development. Didn't expect it to an entire business, because I'm also an accountant. And that evolved into the childbirth preparation classes. But I honestly thought I was going to be learning techniques that would teach women how to step away from the pain of childbirth, because I've had 2 babies, both healthy, thank God, and not pleasant births. They were the most miserable experiences of my life. I was taught that birth was going to be that way. So taking this class, I'm thinking, well, hypnosis, good grief. We can use hypnosis to do major surgeries. They've done over 20 open heart surgeries where people are allergic to anesthesia. So there's nothing available for them other than hypnosis. So we have the ability, people have the ability, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, but with a good hypnotherapist, people have the ability to turn off their sensations. The signal from the brain doesn't get to the body. You will not experience anything unless the body says you're experiencing pain in your knee. It's not going to happen. So I really assumed when I was learning about hypnosis for childbirth, it was going to be to mask, to step away from, to avoid the pain of childbirth, to be able to disassociate, to be able to turn everything off. Just for your viewing audience, usually for pain management, we work with somebody a few months, making sure that they can bring themselves into those levels, because you need the levels for pain management. Nothing could have been further from the truth. It wasn't about how to use hypnosis techniques. We have all the hypnosis techniques to step away from pain, to turn off all sensation, to create total anesthesia. And Lord knows how many of my clients have used their techniques from baby classes in other situations they've been in, like chemo and surgeries and stuff. So, I mean, it does have those benefits. But it was only after attending, probably after about 2 months, I wasn't just teaching classes, I was attending births. And this came as talk about culture shock. Somebody told me 25 years ago I'd be in childbirth preparation. I'd go, pshaw, I'm an accountant and now I'm getting into hypnosis. What's that got to do with birth and babies? So I was not expecting it. So when I got into this, all of a sudden Dateline did a special, and overnight, I went from not even having my first clients yet. I had my first client signed up to take my course, to all of a sudden overnight, before even teaching that first class, teaching 6 classes a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, twice on Saturday for those that had to drive 3 hours or more because they were coming down from Canada. I'm in LA, up from Mexico, in from Iceland, Denmark. These people were like coming to me, and I had to plan accordingly. And the whole time I was teaching these classes, I hate to admit it in public, but I do in every one of my classes because we are about truth. I was scared to death. I was teaching, and everything that I was saying made absolute perfect sense to me. I had no problem following that, but I had not seen it with my own eyes. So it was only after the first couple of months when I started attending births. And the accountant side makes me a little bit on the left brain side, logical wise. I didn't have to see it once or twice. I had to see it 7, 8, 10 times. Thick skull that, oh my God, we didn't just luck out on this one. Oh my gosh, this is the way it's supposed to be. Oh my gosh, this is the way birth is supposed to be. And when you're literally sitting across from a woman and you yourself have not been totally convinced yet, and that woman is a pharmacist, her and her husband are both pharmacists, both worried about drugs. What does that tell us? So they came to me because they're both pharmacists and wanted the unmedicated birth. But it was only through my little logical brain focused on, oh, they're pharmacists and they're anti-drug, and having this woman 7 centimeters in active labor for 17 hours at that point, by the way, smiling at me, saying, Teresa, I could hardly wait for the next contraction. Now, she's getting her endorphins, which is what the body releases with every contraction, but the fear contradicts that. So, but if we keep the fear out of it, and she accepted everything I had to say without question, it all made perfect sense. So she was just getting the endorphins, and she's like, I can hardly wait for the next surge or the next contraction. She says, because I just feel like I am being pummeled with morphine. And I was like, Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Can I?
It's so interesting because, all right, so now my kids, I birthed them both with hypnobirthing. You were at both of my births in a hospital. What was Spency? Like 20 something, 27 hours, 26 hours, something like that.
But we
And
didn't care.
well, we were in the hospital that long, let's just say.
We had the time.
I know we did. And my daughter is 16 and she was half the time. So that was total progress. But I don't talk a lot about the stories of my birth to other mothers, and haven't over the years, because when I brought it up, that I had a pain-free, all natural birth, like the reactions are often very mixed, like perplexing, like that's not possible,
You're
or they
lying.
don't believe me, or they're angry, right? Because it's like, what? And I'm like, pain, suffering in birth is an optional choice, but people don't know how to get from here to there. And I definitely wouldn't have known how to get there without you, for sure. I was scared to death, right? So I want to talk a little bit about, I want you to share a little bit about your own experience in the birthing process, because I want my kids to really hear it from the horse's mouth. And have it for them, but also just to share my story through our experience and kind of give people a glimpse of options that maybe aren't out there, and in a more conventional sense, that are real, right? Because it is the power of intention, I think, is a big part of it. And we follow sometimes without really understanding there's other options for us. Because I know your story was like that too, where it was like you were told your husband couldn't be there, right?
Originally, yeah, we had to go, well, back in my day, it was during the first Lamaze period, where we just didn't get the pain drugs. We got all the interventions, just no pain drugs. And you had to have your little certificate for your husband to come in with you, which was kind of comical because he didn't know what the heck to do other than to say, yeah, sorry.
Okay, fine, I'm following, take the lead.
Yeah.
Because Spencer was an interesting, birth too, right? Like I came to you and I was so confused about this, and we got pregnant our first, month trying, and then all of a sudden here we are, and we took how many classes? You teach, what is it, 6 weeks?
Now, and I think it was 4 classes. I might have eventually put it up to 5. I kept mine at 4 longer classes rather than 5 shorter classes.
Yeah. So I knew it was like just a few weeks. And then we had a lot of homework, right? Because we had to practice.
Well, yeah, because back then I had people, like I said, if they came in from Canada, I had people coming in a week before their due date. So they went through all 4 classes 3 nights in a row. I mean, I would condense, I would do it in 2 classes.
However we can get it, right? However we can get it.
But they did just as phenomenally, even though they had only been preparing for a week, because all you have to do is get it. And I actually came up with this. It came into the program. I never did get credit, but that's okay. We just spread our knowledge. And it makes really the perfect sense for anybody having a baby. This really does, for anybody with pain management in general. So folks out there, anybody who is suffering any kind of fear of pain or whatever, listen to what I'm about to say, and you will learn some wonderful techniques that you'll take with you for the rest of your life. And you wanted me to be me, so I'm going to be shifting and moving.
Yeah, that's
how I, whatever. When it comes to pain management, anything that anyone is experiencing, I don't care if it's a leg pain, migraines, whatever. People have a bad experience with it. They experience immense pain. It terrorizes them. They then start to dwell on that. And if you understand the way the brain works, it does not recognize the word not. It only recognizes the words you're feeding it. So your self-talk is very important. And if you say, I don't want to be in pain, the images that creates, as far as your brain's concerned, is I, doesn't recognize don't, pain. It will do whatever's necessary to give you pain, because that's what you're focusing. Even if it's what you don't want, it's what you're focusing on. If you don't want to be in pain anymore, you think, I am comfortably relaxed, or I am pain-free. We come up with, everybody's different. Everybody needs their own terminology. They've got their own history, their own vocabulary. We work with that or whatever, but we find your way and we reframe it, because whether you focus on what you want or what you don't want, all your brain is going to hear is what you're focused on and make it happen. So if you're focused on, I want to be successful, then you imagine yourself making $10,000 a month, whatever it is to you, the phone ringing 2,000 times a day, your full staff, whatever. If you focus on, I don't want to be broke anymore, I don't want bills anymore, no more debt, no this, all you're telling your brain is bills, debt, medical, pain, whatever you're focused on, whether it's what you want or what you don't want, is what you're going to get more of. So it seems so lame and so simple and so ridiculously, preposterously basic that you just have to change the wording, because that's all your brain's listening to is your self-talk. And the biggest self-talk for me is no matter what comes out of my mouth, can't stop negative thoughts from coming out. Everybody's got negative thoughts. Okay. It's just a fact of life. That's not a suggestion. It's a fact of life. But recognizing it and just saying, I recognize it, cancel that. It's not enough just to cancel the thought. You then replace it with a positive thought. So I don't want to be in, I don't want to have a painful childbirth. Cancel that. Cancel that. I have a calm, beautiful, serene, whatever words conjure up the feelings of love and warmth and fuzzies and beautiful little babies and happy mommies and babies together and yada. You learn to phrase things the way you want, and that's the picture. The imagination is the language of your subconscious mind, not the words, the imagination. So the words you use have to be very specific for the images you're going to conjure up for your brain. Now, you don't have to feel bad about not talking about your births, because I have been talking about your births for 20 some odd years, because I have different segments of my classes, and you're one of my star births, because just the way you were. And the way you were was, you just got it. You understood that everything that I was saying made perfect sense. And there is nothing I teach in my classes, there's not one line in that book that I wrote that anyone can say, that doesn't sound right, or that's hogwash. It's all common sense stuff. So let's, and if I'm talking too much, I told you you're gonna have to stop.
Go. You're good. They're not here to hear me talk. They're here to hear you talk.
So let's talk about pain for a reason, okay? If you stick a pin in your hand, if the nerve was dead, that would mean the signal couldn't get to your brain. Or if you told your brain, I'm not going to feel that pinprick, you see it all the time. And you see them put the needle in one side and down. You can turn it off. It's all possible. But sometimes you just get it. And the way I run my entire life now, and I mean this sincerely, personally, professionally, familially, with my kids, because I have been in the childbirth business and seen the miracles that I've seen, I trust nature. And everything I do in my life now is basically, if I was out in the wild somewhere, no doctors existed, no nurses, no friends, no relatives, no mother-in-laws, no daughters, no brothers, no whatever. What would I do in this situation? I'd trust it to nature. And nature has an uncanny ability to take care of things in its own time, own place. And you were the perfect example of that. And we didn't have, I don't know if you remember, I remember, we did not have the easiest time with your first doctor because
oh yeah,
not in a rush.
oh yeah. It's like, you taught us in class the mantra, I trust in my baby knows what to do.
Mhm.
The fact that what was that? What'd you say?
And my body knows what to do.
Yeah. And I just use that as my mantra, my affirmation so much. And, Jim had a job. I mean, the truth is that birthing a child for me was the most profound spiritual experience I ever had. I mean, I think it's the most important thing all of us do. Those of us that choose to do it. Nothing will be as compare as like bringing another life into the world. It's extraordinary. And it's also it was terrifying on a lot of levels, because here I was, a businesswoman, and I was in my early 30s when I had my first baby, and anything business, I was like, I got this. But like anything domestic was like, and having a child was like the most domestic thing you could do. I was terrified. So yeah. And I didn't know how to choose a doctor, and nicest man. He was a very nice man, and he was very Western in his approach.
Oh, he just was a little impatient.
And he was impatient. So let's talk about that, because let's get down to the nitty gritty. Like,
yeah,
you saw things that I didn't see. I knew I needed you at my birth, because Jim and I were both the youngest, in our families. We're the babies of the family. So we're like, what is going on? Anyway, so yeah.
A match made in triplicate heaven. No.
Yeah.
And we can't complain about Jim either, because he was the stellar daddy.
He was awesome.
I always say, when you take my class, you don't need me at your birth. You don't. I feel absolutely honored when I'm asked, because like you said, it's a very intimate, spiritual experience, and I feel absolutely honored. But when you leave my class, you have all the information you need
for sure
to have the birth that you want. For those that ask me to be there, there's usually a reason. And I don't mean necessarily a bad reason or a good reason. We have a connection. And for some reason, they want me there. And I do. I consider it an absolute honor. Some are easier than others. And I don't mean that in the way of time, because I've been at 2 births in a day, where I've literally been at one, and an hour and a half later, I'm on my way to a second one. You weren't that way. But when I was with you, it was everything to create that perfect birth. And again, with a side note, because people plan their birth. I've had women that have planned their births more than they've planned their weddings. And God help us if we have to transport to the hospital or something, I mean, it's like we have a lot of experience. But yours, and we weren't home. Did we end up at the hospital for you?
We were at the hospital, and we had the birthing plan, and I just printed it off, and then I filled in the blanks or whatever, and Jim calls her Nurse Ratchet.
Yeah, yes, that was our name.
Right. So I think, okay, so we go in, it's at night, right? And then we have, I have the plan, and I'm like, okay, Jim, it's happening. I worked all day. Jim had a Christmas party at the office, at the, at the dealership. And I went to the party. I have a picture. I should have, I'll post it in the thing because it's going to be funny, of me. I was as big as a house. Remember, people used to ask me all the time if I'm having, twins. Okay, first of all, don't ever ask a woman if they're having twins, even if they're having quadruplets. It's just, and then they would be like, no, you're kidding me. Just one? That is not nice.
And with a belly.
I'm like, cancel, clear, or they'll tell you all the horror stories, right?
Oh,
Why are they
know.
Oh my God, I can't tell you. Cancel, clear, cancel, clear. Like, don't tell horror stories, please, to pregnant women. They're hormonal enough. They don't need your negativity.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we went in and I called you and you're like, you had payroll. Right?
So good about that.
Like, oh, we'll be fine. It was like a day. Right. And Jim tells this story because I don't remember this part, right? Jim hands the birthing plan because Jim's job, he was Papa Bear, right? Jim's job is to like do all the executive stuff. So he hands the birthing plan and he rolls in and she's like, and Jim said something like Nurse Ratched said, oh, she's so calm. She shouldn't even be here. She's not
not for yet.
Yeah, she's not, whatever. I mean, something like that. Like she's not dilated or whatever. And Jim was like, well, maybe that's true, but we'll have to see, won't we? Or something like that. Like he just was
the perfect dad. It really was. It's like he knew I would not overstep my bounds as your support person. But if I said, go do this, he'd say, I'm on it. Took care of
exactly how to handle it.
Nurses and doctors, they're either going to love me or hate me. They
at
all
what point, they loved you. At what point did you realize, because it was going on for a while and I was stuck at, I don't remember what centimeter, but I was stuck.
Like, you weren't stuck. You just weren't beyond like 2 centimeters or so. And we were going on, I think, like 18, 19 hours. And they wanted to start all the inductions. And again, I can't get involved in that. I'd never be allowed in a hospital again. And they really do love me because they don't know what I do behind the scenes.
Right.
I would never say anything while they're giving you advice. I would never contradict the advice you're being given. But I'll give you the questions to ask, which in your case were always the same.
What's
Jim,
the medical reason?
Is my wife in danger right now? Is my baby in danger right now? What's the medical reason for what you're suggesting right this minute? Don't tell me what may happen an hour from now. Don't tell me what could happen on down the road. Right now, how is my wife and baby doing? And they'd say, well, fine at the moment. We'd say, okay, then we're good. And that's all with you. And the fact of the matter is, your damn contractions never came closer than 15 or 20 minutes apart. They weren't going to come closer than 15, 20 minutes apart.
Yeah.
They didn't have to last 3 minutes long. They were getting the job done, and you were eventually progressing, and just not at the speed that they say. And I'm sorry, no matter what bell curve, whatever they're following, bell curve is where they say, on average, if you take 200 women in labor, there's a curve as to how short or long each labor is going to be, and it falls somewhere along that curve. So it has nothing to do with actual facts. It's saying out of these particular 200 women, which is probably in any given hospital on any given day, practically, this one little sample, because 50% of the women go 1 centimeter per hour, we're going to say that if you're not going at least 1 centimeter per hour, we're going to start giving you Pitocin and leading you on the way to get you through this labor, which really boils down to, they don't bother. Oh, how many people is this being shown to? No. Okay. Okay. So once they start the Pitocin, they don't bother telling you that it's probably going to cause the labor to go whether you're ready or not. And if you're not ready to go, it's not going to do jack squat. So you're going to get the Pitocin, and they're going to keep cranking it. If they just gave a little Pitocin, okay, I'm starting to talk medical now, so nothing that comes out of my mouth now is relevant, everyone. I'm just telling you that now. Once they start the Pitocin, now they're going to sit there, and every 20 minutes they're going to up it. So if your contractions in your case are 20 minutes apart, 20 minutes later, they're going to up that Pitocin and try and get them to 10 minutes apart. Once they're 10 minutes apart, they're going to up that Pitocin and get it to 5 minutes apart. And once they're 5 minutes apart, they're going to up the Pitocin to get them 2.5 minutes apart. And after a while, the whole point, and remind me to talk about the arm thing after this. The whole point is that you have a contraction or a surge. I don't care about the soft language anymore. Just, you know what it is. It's 2 sets of muscles that are going to create a way for your child to exit your body. That's what's physiologically happening. Yeah. So they start this process, and you have a contraction. You've got 2 sets of muscles. If this is your uterus, you've got horizontal muscles that start out big at the top, inner muscles, and get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until they form a cervix, which is like this, okay? And then you've got vertical muscles that run up and down. And what happens is when you're having a contraction, these vertical muscles that run up and down are going to just pull up to allow these circular muscles to relax open. Sounds very good together, right? And then they come down and you rest for a while. And then the next one comes and it pulls up and you open up a little bit more. And this process continues until you open up to 10 centimeters. And when I say 10 centimeters, I mean exactly 10 centimeters. It does not matter if you are 4'5" or 6'3". You are going to open to exactly 10 centimeters, which incidentally on every human hand on this planet is this much. Figure that one out. Wrap your head around it. It doesn't matter if you are 4'2" or 5'10" or 6'5". This is 10 centimeters. Can you not trust nature now? And when they are checking you,
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes. And when they're checking your cervix, most women are like normally like at 1 centimeter, right? This would be about 1 centimeter open, their cervix. That's how the sperm got in to impregnate you. Once you're 10 centimeters, you will be this open. And then your baby will emerge. And it doesn't matter how tall or short you are. This is exactly 10 centimeters on every human. You can go check this with your very tall husband at home and you will see that it's true. Okay. Yeah. Itself is kind of phenomenal.
I hadn't heard that one actually. That's true. That's interesting.
Class, I think you were one of the earlier ones.
I was the earlier class. That one is good. Well, because the interesting thing about it is that all the nurses, remember everybody coming in, taking a break.
You had 2 really good nurses that had natural childbirth and they were on our side. And that's the only reason we accomplished.
Well, we went from 3 shifts. So we went from 1 shift nurse ratchet to then with another great one who had natural birth. And then we had another one that had all her babies at home, 2nd shift. And then in the 3rd shift, the same nurse ratchet with the other one was there. And all the nurses in between would come into my room, check on me, but they were all like in awe of what was happening because it was literally like a meditation room in there. Remember I had the music on the loop. I'm like, I'm focusing.
Good idea. How many times?
And the birthing ball, I had my birthing ball.
Do you mind if I come here and do my charting in here?
And my water didn't break. Remember that?
The what?
My water wasn't breaking with Spencer. And they were like, the nurse is like, your water's not breaking and you can have the doctor come or we can do it. And I'm like, I want the doctor to come. And she's like, he'll want to rush it along if he comes. Remember that?
I don't remember that.
Oh yeah. Well, I could be getting Lily and no, this was with the first doctor. So this was with Spency. And so, yeah, they broke the water for me, and then things started happening. But meanwhile, it was like no pain, just slow. It was slow and
And
steady.
you still have the video that you never gave me.
I can't find it.
Oh, darn.
If I find it, I will give it to you. I was so not good at that.
For the viewing audience, I know.
Remember, they wouldn't let me do most of the video, the hospital. They wouldn't let me do a lot of it, but I think I have a little bit somewhere. I don't know where
Oh,
it
and
is.
folks out in the viewing audience, I'm giving her a hard time because
Yeah, it's all right. It's
had such a good, great food. Jim, I don't know, somehow Jim kept getting, I was not hungry on that labor. I just know that. And there was one point where you're on the birthing ball and I'm behind you. And I got my chair pulled up behind you so you can lay back on me. And we both fell asleep. And I got video. And it's like, I need this video just to show this is what funny births or hypnobirth is supposed to be about. This is a women babe. We were snoozing. We were just snoozing away.
Jim tells me that I'm a professional sleeper. That's what he goes. Nobody sleeps better than you, honey.
I am not a professional sleeper, so you even got me to sleep that day. But I thought that was comical. And the whole thing is, again, see, I get off topic very easily. The whole thing that causes pain in any way, shape, or form, and I don't care if you're birthing babies or if you've got a broken leg, whatever, you have experienced this traumatizing event that caused pain. And most people are more afraid of the thought of going there again than what the actual pain was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So their perception of it in that moment, because in that moment of extreme pain, it's not just extreme pain. You're also terrified. You don't know what's going on. You have this fight or flight thing going on, depending on what the situation is. You have no control over the situation. So you've got all this stuff coming to fruition, which is clouding the issue. And once that issue is over with, now you think about it and you ruminate about it. Meaning you just keep repeating it in your head, whether you intend to or not.
Yeah.
And what
like inappropriate attention on a negative thing, right? And it's like this over and over and over again. Yeah.
Stronger, and that memory becomes stronger and stronger, so that what you are now fearing is so much worse than if you actually had to experience it again, but you're so caught up in the thought process and what you perceive that to be. And this is where fight or flight comes in. It's a wonderful mechanism. If you are in a life and death situation and your life is literally being threatened, fight or flight will kick in, meaning your body will go immediately to tunnel vision. Your peripheral goes out of sight. You are focused on whatever it is that's causing this immediate threat. The stress hormones, your brain sends these stress hormones coursing through your body, which will make you so strong or angry or whatever, so angry that you will shake, or so strong that you will pick up the back end of a car. And those stories are real. Pull the pit out of it, because you have this superhuman adrenaline that makes you 10 times stronger than you would ever be. But if you don't dissipate that stress, if you don't fight for your life, pick up the car or run, it just sits in your body. And that's what we'll end up with. Ulcers and hypertension, the number one cause of death, because they've got these, your subconscious mind does not understand the difference between a true life and death, this guy's got a gun in my face threat, or I have to get up and give a speech in front of 200 people threat. Your brain doesn't understand the difference. It just recognizes fear. That is it.
Right.
Fear, happiness. Those are our two emotions. And when fear kicks in, then we get all this stress. Now, how does that affect labor? And I tell everyone to like do this exercise with me. I will say, hopefully you can see me, hold out your arm and just bend your arm to a 45-degree angle. Uh-huh. Okay, now straighten the arm. Uh-huh. Did any of that hurt? No. Well, why not? And you get varied answers, and somebody will finally say, because it's normal. It's like, there you go. This is the most normal movement in the world. But let's say for some reason, you're terrified about something, anything, anywhere, anytime, something scares you really bad. What does your body do? The first thing it does when it's scared, will tense up. There you go. So now do me a favor, take that same arm, put some fear into it, tense it up as hard as you can, and now straighten it with it being tensed as hard as it can. And now bend it again. How did that feel? Well, it didn't feel good. Well, how long do you think you'd be able to do that before you got exhausted?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly. Especially, the two muscle groups that you talked about, right? The vertical and the horizontal, if they're fighting against each other, one's clamping and one's trying to open. It's
that's
like
right.
you're gonna get a lot of pain. And
Push back.
and that is true. Like I would say out of the however many, over 24 hours, like 28 hours, I remember towards the end, I was tired. I was really tired. And
Reason.
yeah,
Your body, it doesn't have to hurt, but you're working. Your body's
I was
working.
working and I lost my focus for a moment. And I was like,
A
oh,
moment.
for a moment. And I was like, oh, I understand what people are talking about, for just a brief second. And then I was able to, because of so much practice and familiarity, I was able to bring myself back. And then, birth a 10-pound, 2-ounce baby boy.
That was the other plus, which
14, I think it was 14 3/4 round in the shoulders, 24 inches long.
Which what did I tell you about size?
It just doesn't matter.
Doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't.
Not talking 4 extra pounds of head. It's 4 extra pounds of baby. And that's the way it is. And that really is how simple it is. However, when you think about your uterus, well, only females can think about their uterus because, men don't have them, but a uterus is comprised of 2 sets of muscles, and it's the only organ that is both a muscle and an organ. It actually functions. And incidentally, this process I was talking about, which if you take my baby class, how many times did I do this visual for you? You got the horizontal muscles, and then you got the vertical. One set draws up and the other side opens up. And we keep doing this, and it's the most normal, natural, basic, physiological, fundamental beginning of life. It's the most normal thing, and there is nothing painful about this, just like there's nothing painful about this or any other set of muscles in your body. Every set of muscles in your body works on this push-pull system. Pull up, relax, open. Pull up, relax, open. Pull up, relax, open. Look at my eyes. One teeny tiny little muscles in the corners of your eyes. One set relaxes down and the other one pulls it down. And the opposite, every set of muscles in your body. One thing that these 2 sets of muscles are going to operate any differently than any other set of muscles. Can I be any more? I don't visualize, but I'm nothing more normal than movement. It's a natural movement.
It's back to that idea of like nature never intended for birth to hurt or be painful. It's like it never was. And we somehow try to control nature.
Before the 1600s, it wasn't. How ridiculous. 1600s.
What happened then? I don't remember.
It sounds like a long time ago, 1600s, but that's when pain started in childbirth. Before that, doctors weren't even part of the childbirth process. it was always either a neighboring woman who would have babies already, somebody who'd been through it, or the midwife.
Yeah.
Not even attend births because it was considered below them. It was not, it was the most natural thing in the world, and it was considered below their class. So the only time a doctor would even show up at a birth is if there was a complication, which sometimes there are complications, which I have to teach in my class. I can teach you that having a baby is the most normal, natural, basic, yada, yada, physiological function in the world. But you do listen, and you just have informed decisions. You know what you're making decisions on. What's the medical reason right now? And is my wife or baby in danger right now? And that's the daddy's only job. Okay, his job was to put the baby there too. Okay, give him a little credit. But main job in any animal kingdom, whether you want to admit, I'm sorry, I'm going to step on toes. We are kind of part of a, upper animal kingdom type thing. The male protects the woman during birth. In the gorilla community, when mommy gorilla is ready to have her baby, she goes over and she gathers twigs and branches and everything, and she makes a nest so that she can lay down. Which personally, Star, I think sucks, because I think the man should do that. But they're gorillas, so we'll give them some.
She's got to help herself. She's got to
Yeah,
do something.
gotta help herself. But she goes over and she makes herself a nest, and then she lays down in it, and she literally lets go. She just lays there and lets her body do what it needs to do. What does the daddy gorilla do? He walks about 100 yards away, and he just around the perimeter, and he just stands there like this. Yes, I will do an imitation of a gorilla.
And he's doing what? Just observing, keeping.
He just scanning and making sure that nothing comes between his mate and the birth of their child.
That's Teresa, that's really interesting, because remember when you looked at me? I'll never forget this.
I know what you're gonna say.
You looked at me and you're like, you said, what do you need? Because I was at, I think, like, I don't know, eight for like 5 hours.
God.
And I was like, what do you mean? What do I need? I was like, I remember thinking to myself, oh my God, I need something.
Now, what I said to you,
But it's, yeah.
I remember it was yesterday. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. What I said to you was, baby, do you remember in my class when I was talking about animals in the wild, if they don't feel safe, they will shut down their labor. Every animal does it, and then they will flee and run for days if necessary until they feel safe again, and then they will release their child. And you said, sweetie, is there anything going on right now that is causing you to feel unsafe? Tell me what it is. And you said,
Yeah.
Get that bitch out of here. And it was Nurse Ratchet. And I went to Jim. I said, get that fucking bitch out of here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
We were just like, get her. And Jim's like, I'm on it. I'm on it. And I'm like, oh my God. And then what was it like? He was very respectful, and he walked out there and he just said to her, he told me, he said this.
He said, like, I'm on it. I don't know what he said.
You're making my wife feel unsafe and emotionally having to protect herself against your negativity, and you either knock it off or you leave. And she was great after that.
He came in after that.
She was great after that.
So bad, because I thought I would never be allowed in that hospital again. And instead, she totally changed her tune. And sometimes
like the biggest fan after that. She didn't even realize she was doing that, because you get trained a certain way as a nurse, right? And you've seen so many and all of a sudden someone's coming in and interrupting, disrupting the way things normally are, with conviction and intention. And then shortly after that, the doctor came in, right? And he was not very happy that the nurses had kind of kept information from him, I guess.
Well,
And
for us though.
what was
That-
happening there?
Huh? They did that for us because the doctor kept calling to ask how you were doing, because he
And I was
wanted to
fine.
start you on drugs. He wanted to start the Pitocin, and nurses, they'd come in and tell me, they'd say, I just told him she's doing fine. Thank you.
I was
Never
fine.
to just encourage them to keep doing. They were on our side. We lucked out with your nurses. You would have never had.
Well, and you have to remember, we were the first birth in that hospital that was birthing as nature intended, hypnobirthing, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I don't know if I was birthing as nature intended yet back
You
then.
weren't. It was hypnobirthing then.
I think so.
But it was, not that kind of natural birth. They told us it was the first one. So, they'd never seen anything like it. They were confused and sorted out. And this is where I want to give a warning to mamas or anyone that's watching this, that's an intended mama and pregnant. Choose your doctor carefully and make sure that they are on your side. They understand and respect the way that your plan is. So you got to have a plan. And Teresa talks about this in her Birthing as Nature Intended, this book. Got to have a plan. And you got to really do your homework to make sure that the doctor's on the same page, because I really wasn't interested in having any unnecessary pharmaceuticals used for something that I could do myself.
Understand something too, and I'm not naming names, so I don't feel bad about this. I've been to over 100 births. Okay. I mean, I've had like a couple of thousand couples come through my class, but I've been to over 100 births. I've had a lot of time to talk to doctors, and I feel for them too. I don't feel for them in the sense that I kind of feel like it's them against us, but I don't. I've always been halfway, and
you've always been so good about that.
I try, and I'm not being a smart ass. I'm really not. Confidence has never been my issue. I can walk that line between medical and yeah, there's a lot of, I've never been a doula. I train doulas, but I've never been a doula or whatever. I come as your friend. I come as your support. I never overstep my bounds. I know where my bounds are, and I let them feel their way with me. And they very soon realize that I'm on their side and I'm just making their life easier, which was one of the problems, by the way, with Nurse Ratchet, is I was doing everything and she was feeling useless. But once we got through that and she realized I wasn't the enemy, she came back and she felt wonderful. So sometimes it's not always just because they're a Nurse Ratchet, and God knows, maybe they had a fight with their husband or something the day before. Yeah. Cry. Everybody has a bad day, but the doctors.
Well, it was just the negativity. I think people need to understand, pick your doctors and your nurses, recognize when negativity is coming in, and you don't need to have the energy to protect yourself against that in a time when you need to be focused on you and your baby.
Yeah.
100%.
But they need to understand too, that in talking to all these doctors, do you know a lot of these doctors will lose their privileges at that hospital if they don't do enough C-sections and enough.
What?
Oh yes, they will. I've had 3 different doctors. Sometimes I'm there for a long time and we talk. I've had 3 different doctors tell me that they would lose their privileges if they don't do enough epidurals or enough C-sections. I will not mention names and okay. I don't know if I should have even said that. However, this is an actual fact.
Well, it's a truth that we need to understand, because, we as pregnant, birthing mothers, there is a business behind this. For us, it's,
It's all a business.
yeah.
Pain,
And,
childbirth, the
it's,
very concept of pain in childbirth is because it's a business. Because in the 1600s, obstetricians weren't even around yet, but doctors who were 100% men back then, doctors decided a buck could be turned. And that's when obstetrics came into play, and that interventions came into play. There's no money to be made by letting a woman who was not having a difficult labor 15 to 25 minutes apart is just not difficult. We chatted, we ate, we slept, we teased, we joked. It's just not convenient for the doctors, but it certainly wasn't bothering us. There's no money to be made.
yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, you are officially not the longest labor I've ever been to, but the
slowest.
The slowest moving one, I will say.
Yes.
Longest I have ever spent at a labor. I've been gone.
It
as
was
long,
graceful.
but it's like, well, it's my kids. My mother was working for me at the time, right? She's running my account. And I'd call her, how's it going? I said, she's fine. She's just not, 15, 20 minutes, we're hanging, we're eating, we're sleeping. I mean, they were laughing because I wasn't crying.
Your mom had to do payroll for you or something because we were there so long. I can't remember what happened. And in Lily's birth, she was like 13 hours. She was super, like, I was like so confident after this. And I'm like, well, because in Spencer's birth, the doctor came in, he was angry and mad at the nurses for not fully whatever. I don't know all the details. And he did a level 4 episiotomy on me that I didn't feel at all. But the 6 weeks after the birth was way more traumatizing and painful. Yeah. So I was like, he retired. So his partner came in and did Lily. Love that man. What?
I'm not going there on.
Yeah, I know. Bottom line is that it wasn't necessary. Ripping is way better than cutting. And because the body will just do what it knows how to miraculously. And
I don't want to talk about it. No.
Okay.
Very real. No.
But Lily, I didn't need to do that. She was 13 hours. I learned all the hard stuff with Spence. Same hospital, different doctor. And I don't know if you remember this. So they're both retired now, by the way, both my doctors, right?
Okay.
I love my Lily's doctor. His name is Dr. Tomer. He was so amazing. And Jim gave him the birth plan. And he read the birth plan.
I know his name. Why do I know his name?
And because he's extraordinary human. And he was like, he saw it as meditation, which it is a meditation, right? Some people like that word, some people don't. Like, I birthed both my kids because I was able to meditate and use the power of my mind.
It's part of everything, for God's sake. Yoga is meditation.
Yeah, I know, right? So he literally paused and he saw the surges on the machine go up.
Talking about.
And then down. And he was like, and he goes, can I have the birth plan? Because I was calm. There was no screaming at my husband. There was no no drama unnecessary.
He also is a big proponent of hypnosis, as I recall.
He was.
I know who you're talking about.
He was amazing. And I think I gave him your number, but he actually really was so open to it. And he had done some research about like the pain management and surgeries with hypnosis and things like that.
I was leaving the hospital with you. We'll have to talk after this because I'm not going
No,
to
I
do it.
want to talk right here. Say it.
I think he had his receptionist, somebody that worked with him, chase down the hallway to chase me down to get my business cards after that. He's a nice man. I'm sure we're talking about the same
Yeah,
guy.
he was amazing. And then you know what? He retired. He actually called me.
Oh
He's
no.
retired now. I ran into him with Lily at Starbucks or some coffee shop in town. And I introduced Lily to him, and because he knows that I'm a meditation teacher. And he's like, Star, I want to know about, like, he was so curious about it. He goes, your birth was one of the most, like, it was so memorable for him.
Oh, I think
and he was like, so I was just like, I love that man. So choose your doctor wisely for sure, right? Like, what do you have? Do you have any advice for people about the idea of how to choose?
Yeah, kinda. I think maybe, I don't know. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
I've heard go with the really young or the really old, because the really young ones are the ones most exposed. And we're not going away. The benefits of positive thinking, I mean, this is all common sense stuff. So that's not going away. So the new doctors are being finally exposed to that, whether or not it's really being taught in medical school. I know I talked to 2 doctors, and I train a lot of doctors between the hypnobirthing and the hypnotherapy courses and stuff. I've trained a lot of doctors. 2 doctors have told me that they learned about quote unquote hypnosis in their medical training, but most do not. So the newer ones have the biggest chance of being exposed to this common sense. This does not hurt.
Right. It doesn't.
You're into these people's heads and they won't be stressed.
I mean, and I don't know medically, like, what are the implications of all the stuff that they're using and doing? And, I mean, I just know my own experience, right? I know my own experience. I know,
your experience is enough to be shouting it from a rooftop, because
remember you had the barbecue, all your babies, you would call them all your babies. And so you would have a hypnobirthing barbecue kind of gathering. And it's like all the babies, how many were there? There's like 30 babies there.
And not
They're
one,
all come.
not one was crying.
Like both of my kids were really, really, Spencer, easy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still that way. He goes at his own pace. Nobody's going to push him. He's like, their personalities are in utero the same as when they come out. If you look at you see it, but it's like, you can't
I know. No.
And Lily, she was feisty in that tummy of mine. She was like, and she's fiery, and she was happy, and the babies were, really great. Like, they were great.
And I've had 2 kids. My daughter, she was expected, she was planned, yada, yada, yada. And she has a much more kickback personality. My son, number 2, was not planned. Marriage was not in good shape at the time. A lot of screaming and hollering, and we're talking like anger. He and I are probably, like this because of it, but it's amazing because you're not going to tell me there's not a difference in personalities in babies that are raised in environments, and I mean raised in the cooking stage, not in the stage, in the 9-month gestation. Yes, it makes a difference. You cannot make yourself feel guilty over anything either. So anybody watching this out there, I am no sooner going to feel guilty for doing the best I could at that point in my life. But I know that my boy child faces much more issues because of what I was going through when I was pregnant with him. Do I feel guilty? No, he and I are very close. But you have to be aware of it. And yes,
it's like we're all connected. We're all
Huh?
connected. We're all connected, and we have, the feelings we feel when we're pregnant are definitely a part of it. It's like they're hormonal scientific things going on in our bodies. They're like a chemistry experiment all the time. And so like I look at Spencer, and I did a lot of resting when I was pregnant with him. I was transitioning. I had just gotten married like the year before to my best friend. And now we were pregnant a year later. And Lily was same. It was like there was Spencer going on, and then I had Lil, and I was running a business, and there was more stress than I probably should have been a part of. But it was like we were doing the best we could, trying to raise the kids. And
All you can ever do. And as long as you've done the best you could, honey, that's all you can expect of yourself. You did the best you could. And that, I think that's the biggest thing. And even for your viewing audience, if you're having any kind of feelings about anything, talk to somebody who's been through what you've been through, because everyone thinks they're alone. Everybody thinks they're the only ones that have ever had a kid talk to them the way they did, or the only ones that have ever felt the way they did because of what's going on right now. Everybody feels isolated. So talk to somebody. You just want to talk to somebody who's been through the same thing you are, and is going to say, oh yeah, you're absolutely right, I feel the same way. That's all it takes. People will be 1,000 times better. And the biggest thing with me is especially all you people listening that have had babies before, that your birth did not go the way that they wanted, or the way that you wanted. That is what breaks my heart more than anything else, is I can honestly say that every one of my clients, not all births go perfect.
Yeah.
But every one of my mothers was happy with their birth, because because they knew how to ask the questions. What's the medical reason? Am I or my baby in danger? Once you answer those questions, sometimes the answer is going to be yes. And you go with that, and you picked your medical professionals because you trust them. But ask your questions, because if there's not a medical reason, very important 3 words follow this: right this minute. If there's no medical reason, right this minute, if me or my wife or my baby are not in danger right this minute,
Yeah.
we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
One of my parents has felt like they had the most sad, they were happy with the births. And that is what makes my heart, because nothing used to break my heart more than when I was with hypnobirthing. It was their way or the highway. And these women would say, I had to have a C-section. I'm so sorry. And it's like, oh my God, you went through 36 hours of labor, and you're feeling guilty. You're my hero. That would make me want to cry. Ask questions.
Yeah.
There is a medical reason.
Absolutely. And that's what, and this is what I remember hearing when you taught us. It was like medical reason. Like if there is something going on, then that's a sign that we need to take action. But the pain is a sign that something is wrong and that action needs to be taken. That's one of the reasons why we chose to do it in the hospital way back when. Because, well, what if I was so insecure about becoming a mom? Business, no problem. Like,
I know.
babies, it was like, I don't know if something's going to happen. And I want to be in a place that they have the medical technology and the equipment to be able to handle it. But I went in with the idea of like, I trust in my baby and my body to do what it knows how to do. And that also means giving signs of pain to alert that there's something wrong. And when you're on medicine that cuts you off from your emotions and the feeling, you don't even know how to give that feedback to them, because it's like you've taken that away.
Right.
Right.
But I do have to take this opportunity to say that as far as you and your birth experiences, I have to thank you because you lived it out. I am so proud of I'm not just stroking you. You were the epitome of what I was preaching. I mean, and
You're so sweet.
oh,
I don't know
and
what the hell I was doing back then. I was so nervous.
I was not even convinced back then that what I was preaching was as pure as what I believe it is now. I do believe every single thing, but back then I was still green behind the ears too. You trusted me, I trusted you. We got to have these experiences together, and I can't thank you enough because you're part of every birth story I ever tell.
Well, I've referred quite a few people to you over the years. Some went,
Yes.
and some didn't, but I'll tell you what, the every time they went, they called me and said, thank you, Star. I was like, hey, listen, I'm thankful to my best friend Kelly for telling me about you. And I just feel like I don't know why we don't learn this in school, like in health class. Like if we understood our bodies better and the nature of our bodies, and I don't know, we might treat planet Earth a little better too.
Can I tell you, I tried. I really tried. I tried to get into LA Unified because I thought this should be part of a regular. I tried.
Really, I didn't know that.
Their response was that teenage girls aren't interested. They just want to either do surrogates or whatever. They weren't going to have any part of it. But I did. I thought that I might have a chance in a public sector if somebody knew something, temples. I used to do hypnosis shows in temples. LA Unified wanted nothing to do with that because they needed, which I'm terrified to do stage shows between you and how many thousands of people. I have stage fright. And a glass of wine, I can do a stage show. But yeah, I'm not. But as far as yeah, it was beyond me that they should, and they won't allow me to go in there. Private schools will allow like a hypnosis show, but the show is just to get to be able to educate it. It's a window to get the education in. They want no part of it. And LA Unified is, I thought, health class, childbirth preparation, how much more natural, but they don't.
That's what the bottom line is that we just keep, like I pray to goodness that my kids decide to, when they have children of their own, they decide to go this route, because I think it's so much, it makes so much sense. But the truth is people have to make up their own mind for themselves. They have to own their births, and they have to own their bodies. And it's not just at birth. It's literally like our mental hygiene is as important as our physical hygiene, and well-being, like our mental well-being as well as our physical well-being. And I think with the last year, mental health and point of view, perspective, all of that has come to the forefront way more, because we've all been through something collective. But I just want to thank you for being here.
And if anybody out there,
Teresa Van-Zeller, Hypnobirth 2000. Find her. Do you have your classes? You do them live, yes, or you do them on Zoom?
I've been doing them live, but I can do them on Zoom. I just bought my new computer but we use my phone anyways.
I'm going to have to help you with that, Teresa, and get you set up, because I think it would be really great to have your courses available on Evergreen for people. So I love you, honey.
I love you too, babes.
My babies say hi.
And I say hi to my babies.
I'll talk soon.
Take care, honey.
Bye.